Me family, una good evening, una good afternoon, or una good morning. This now on a program again, Salone CASHBOX. Me family, today now the 17th of March 2025. Me salon people, today I just want come and maybe educate, teach, or share a little bit about this whole topic of privatization. Privatization. You know, waiting this mean now we be say um, maybe state-owned properties are being kind of like maybe transfer, sell, or lease to private individuals them for may they run on behalf of the state. You know, salon people, is it really a scam if you privatize? I can't explain this, and una be the judge to it. You know, salon people, you know, most of the time, privatization, one of the key things then, if you believe in competition, then privatization is the way forward. Also, we get to be aware and understand that it depends on the circumstances. You know, salon people, today I want briefly want to talk about privatization, a little detail, and I will do a follow-up audios them about it. Salon people, if I should ask a question, when we talk about privatization, it's a concept where for decades and decades, people know governments around the world, across the world, don't actually adopt. But people in day where don't use them and abuse them with anything in the world. And before I go in detail, I ask you a question. Is democracy a good or bad thing? Then I want to ask another question. If you feel say democracy is good, just because Madabio Sidom and rogue the system of democracy, does that make democracy a bad thing? Some people, and you know, first of all, let me just make this clear. You cannot take away privatization and the free market economy and capitalism. You see, Salon people, if you believe in democracy, then you for believe, well, I don't say, but 10 chances to 1, you for believe in capitalism. Because capitalism, now in the financial world, they use democracy. When you see something wrong, when you see Elon Musk, they propagate for men and sack people in America, people make decision on their own free minds and say, we don't want Tesla again. Tesla stock price go down. That is capitalism. That is democracy within, the financial world. capitalism. You see, Salone people, sorry, waiting privatization. And one of like the other key thing about privatization, now, you know, direct foreign investment or foreign direct investment, what people like they call FDIs. It encourages direct foreign investment. You know, one go say, oh, well, direct foreign investment, they encourage capital flight. No, it doesn't have to be. Usai, you regulate them properly. You see, Salone people, and I want to make something very, very clear as well. America has the largest economy in the world. Full stop. You see, I see people when they talk about, oh, the purchasing power, the purchasing power parity. Salone people, the purchasing power parity GDP measurement. You see, oh God, I get a lot for teach. I hope I'm not going to forget. I wish I for me don't jot things them down. But let me just talk. The purchasing power parity, as the word, as the you know the meaning implies, purchasing power parity. I mean, parity just means equality, equal. So the power of buying equal buying. So like purchasing power parity GDP measurement isn't the real productivity. Waiting the purchasing power parity measurements they do now for adjust the productivity by different factors them like inflation, interest rate, currency. And the interesting thing, we all know how China, then they kind of like deliberately they devalue their currency because like they come out from like they now like export based economy they get. They do not consume enough waiting and they produce. So then they devalue their currency for make the exports actually kind of like increase. And that currency they gets like an impact on the purchasing power parity measurement of the GDP. So people, please, I hope when they follow me. It's like the same thing for say, because because the GDP per capita, we mean say, like what's in the country they produce per head. So in other words, the purchasing power parity, they factor in the cost of living in a country, but not a measurement of waiting the country they produce, the country in productivity. It's just like for make you say the GDP per capita, America not even inside the first 5 or first 10 safe. I think it's in Luxembourg and you know Singapore, they get the highest GDP per capita. So are you saying that Singapore and Luxembourg, you know, like you know these countries like Luxembourg, like now they get more productivity? No, it just the GDP per capita just a measure the weight in the country they produce divided by weight almost people in the country. It's just as simple as that. But in terms of productivity, the country where they produce past all country, now America. You see, Salone people, the reason why I talk about this, it is because, you know, I compare, we were talking about, you know, privatization, how sometimes, depending on the situation, they encourage more productivity. So China isn't more productive than America. It is not true. It's just that when the productivity is measured against the cost of living, because think about this, Salone people, cost of living. Chinese people know they consume waiting and they produce. So as a result, it goes back to the concept of demand and supply. The higher the demand, the higher the cost, the higher the price. So because America then they consume, cost of living bound for increase. So it gets an impact on the productivity of that country. Some people, the other argument for say privatization. Look, let me add a good example to Salone. Serotel. So it tells you it could work, but you must assess and check and understand what really you want privatized. I made this point that TPP yesterday. Salone, the danger when we they do na Salone, we they go privatize, waiting we don't even get an understanding of. We go privatize we iron ore them when we don't even understand. We don't do proper study for no almost iron ore we get in a particular area where we go privatize. So then the dupe we. This is the reason why we have to assess. I would never say no to privatization or yes to privatization until we fully understand certain things. You see, some people, privatization can be a form of loan, debt. It can be a form of debt. In other words, if somebody can privatize, and look, the number one thing, before we ever privatize, we must understand fully what thing we want privatize. So they don't go dupe we. Can give we half money, where we then they reap past waiting we actually know. Privatization is a form of debt. Why did I say this? It is because if you privatize, you want money upfront. Now, like when you they lease something, like let me say you lease your house, you know how you host stand. You know say na 1 bedroom, you know say na 2 bedroom, you know say you get kitchen. Based on that, you lease your house for maybe 10 years. Then give you money upfront. Then some people, they go take that money they go start business. Then take that money then send them picking them overseas. That is how sometimes, if you know waiting you get, and please underline what they say, if you know waiting you get, until you know waiting you get, do not privatize, especially in a salon. So you could well get people and when they say, you know what, I want to make Connaught Hospital. I want to make the water system now with country. I want to go, you know, what's not the greatest asset? Make it go privatize the iron ore na Tonkolili. I know almost we get them. Then I go tell them, say, every year, do not mine, for instance, like Tonkolili, wide guess, because, you know, research we don't show, say we can make $27 billion every year from Tonkolili. So a lot of people, imagine that 27 billion careful come with cost. The machineries, the shipping cost, the exposure for like the fluctuation of iron ore prices. All of these things we have to factor in. And then we charge them a price and say, okay, 27 billion every year. Now with the factor, almost machinery when I get for buy. Wait till we get when I get for incur upfront and all length in the day. We assess all of those things because the 27 billion is the revenue. It not involve like any cost. We can say, okay, you know it in, like with every the machine, we can understand the machineries that we get for involved, the people that we get for employed, and all length in the day. We say, okay, 2700 billion when I can make it from here. When I need to make profit out of that, you know, all length in the day. We able factor. Say, okay, we want you now for 10 years. Which that 27 billion can make $270 billion for UNA. But we get for understand the machineries the way get for involved. Like, the residual values of like those machineries after 10 years. Because when I go left hand to we, on another left hand to we, then we understand the number of people that want to get for employed. We understand like, the fluctuation of commodity price and all that thing in it. We say, okay, Nathan, because we understand all of those things, but we get for know the cost that we get for involved. Full disclosure. If we say, okay, 270 billion over 10 years, when I give we 100 billion, we've listed, we've transferred the risk and benefit over to them. Give me 100 billion. Let me go fix my water, light system. Can you imagine what they go do for Salone? It's a form of loan. It could well work. But until we understand these things. You see, Salone people, I go back to QCell and Sabatel. The reason why, one of the advantages of privatization, now like it brings about competition. When I remember, some time ago, QCell wanted to charge a very, very cheap tariff price, I think per call or whatever they call it. The government kicked against it. That's not to properly manage, monitored privatization. Because privatization will bring about competition, where Sarah Telbach for me compete with them, before that, they starve the competition. So that is not the kind of privatization where I talk about. Some people, if you worry about capital flight in privatization, there are ways then, dividend, taxes, capital gains taxes, where you they impose for avoid capital flight. And guess what? In a free market economy, if even it's like that, now it all depends again to the reputation of the country. How will they make sure say we give people and we appease people and we make people see Salone like a place where for be? The liquidity of the country, because again, if you put too much high taxes on dividends and CGT, it means like your market's not liquid. There isn't liquidity. If people want to sell or buy like shares in Salone, they make your market illiquid. Franga for make them come out. But this is why the free market economy, now make I talk earlier, say now the democracy, people use their free will for make decisions. Make Salone a place of paradise. Outside people in no one left. This is the beauty of capitalism. It's the beauty. But you can put, like, if even you worry about, capital flight, they country there, then they charge higher dividend interest rate, higher dividend tax, because they want to encourage reinvestment. They actually kind of like increase capital gains tax, because they want to control liquidity and for many people, they sell shares too much and run away and go. These are all measures. And you go talk about protectionism. Try where in countries and go kind of like always they say, we were there. Now we don't go on side. We should not reach now. So, but the danger with that, you discourage people and from NNC and say your market or your country not liquid enough. You see, Salone people, I will continue this conversation. But the powerful thing with privatization, it could work if you assess and control them and monitor them properly. China. In fact, now they say China will renationalize some of the SOEs, sectors them where like the state-owned entities them, SOEs, state-owned entities. They said they want to renationalize them. But China used it to their advantage and it was monitored. China don't let for they monitor them. Now, one of the tools that when they use for develop the economy, there is nothing wrong with privatization. Most of the people and when they use them, now because they get ill motive behind it. But there is nothing wrong. Some people, you see, briefly, I want to talk about waiting at the meaning of balance sheet. Hey, waiting in a salon, na the water, waiting in a tonkolili, waiting in a pepel, waiting in a kono. It's not in our balance sheet at all. It's not. Salon people, anything waiting at your balance sheet, nothing where they work for you. Anything, the definition of, in fact, like an asset. An asset, that's something where they give rise to future economic benefit. The definition of an asset again, that's something where they give you future economic benefit. So where it then your balance sheet, it get the tendency for give you some benefit. Waiting I say anything within your balance sheet, now anything, and that's the definition of asset, but anything within your balance sheet, nothing where they work for you. Example, even the loan when a liability, if for work for you, the moment a loan isn't working for you, it shouldn't be in your balance sheet. The moment basic thing like creditors, suppliers are not working for you, even though you owe them physical cash, but they should work for you. The equity finance, they should work for you. Anything within your balance sheet. If the Tonkolili iron ore isn't working for us, it is not in our balance sheet. If the fish where they water, no they produce, we don't get time frame as to how them for become revenue for when they catch the fish them. It's not in our balance sheet. It is not. Anything where then are your balance sheet, now work. Anything where you call a work, it don't want come. It's not in your balance sheet and it shouldn't be in your balance sheet. You see, some people in the world, you say, oh, well, capitalism, privatization, it's all about profit to shareholders. Some people, do you know if privatization works really well? It work for we, the people, then? Because now we assume, waiting a profit. Some people, profit, it's another KPI, where people call key performance indicator. You know, in charity organization, they call profit surplus. In non-profit organization, efficiency. You can talk about, for instance, the NHS, waiting time, success rate. These are profits. And you see, Salone people, when you look at the American model, you go say it's too harsh, enough fear on the citizens. But it could well be working. America, even maternity pay. Certain 1 week they pay people in for. Certain states, most states, 1 week, 2 weeks. And I'm not saying it's fair. It's very nasty system. But now it lead to the productivity. We can also use the UK as an example. Say now in the cause for make people, at times people can say, oh, me know the work. It better for make I didn't host than I work if I get picking them. So it will cause for make. So this the point what they make now is about privatization of like the medical system in America. Everybody is kind of like urgent, say, you know, if I don't work, if I sick, just not trouble go for them. Even though it is shrewd, it is nasty. Not to say I support them, but it could well be saying that because of that mindset, then they bring about the productivity of America. Salon people, please, I beg you, in this day and age world on this so na salon. People and they say, oh, like privatization, it's all about profit maximization for the shareholders. Who are the shareholders? You can be shareholders. You can be a shareholder. Sorry. You can simply, if they say they want to privatize the company, like, you go buy shares. What's wrong with that? You profit. Look, salon people, we can understand. Profit not to think, again, I make I say in an educated population, competitive market, and the democracy, which is capitalism. If it's at play, people are well informed. Profits no they come. Except you they kill people, profits they come. Except you they treat you people, you employees, they nasty, profits they come. Except you service no good, profits they come. No, it doesn't work that way. Profits they come with other non-financial things then. The thing is, people in the argue say, well, where it fails, the privatization, always the government back, they come and bail them out. We get banks the way they were privately owned. But when they mess up, because of the importance of it, they had to be bailed out by governments across the world. And secondly, if it's properly managed, that wastage the way they happen over the time where you be own them. It's the same thing as like bailing them out where they require them. So let's go back to the crux of the issue and understand that privatization isn't bad. You go back to the point. Just because matter be your rogue election, matter be your abuse democracy, it no mean say democracy na bad thing. It's the same thing. Just because people are abusing privatization doesn't mean privatization is a scam. It isn't. But we've learned the thing that will happen with privatization don't make we learn. Even China today, where like the second biggest economy, most of the SOEs, the state-owned entities, are privatized. In fact, to some extent, they even say the struggle where China they go through right now, the only way they were able to remedy the situation is by renationalizing those privatized institutions. Some people, sometimes when things are state-owned, they're subject to wastages. They're subject to inefficiencies. There's nothing wrong with that. The only thing, privatization could well work with a proper regulatory market. However, even sometimes regulation can stifle growth, can affect the whole concept. This is the reason when you look about, like you talk about an issue, you delve into an issue, please kind of like think and that make you need to get full understanding of anything. Draw up a cost-benefit analysis and understand what we did about for do. If I'm gonna, I'll continue on this teaching. I just say for just can lay some foundation in there, and I will continue this. If I'm gonna, this not a program, Salone CASHBOX, and God bless you now. And then I get a very, very good evening. Thank you very much. Thank you.